Hey, good morning, Pete, North Las Vegas. This is going to be part 2 of a Colt Sporter HBAR clone build that I'm doing. And I just got a bunch of parts in from Fulton Armory. In the first video, we talked about the Harrington and Richardson A2 receiver that I got through Palmetto State Armory. And like I just mentioned, all of the upper parts came from Fulton Armory. Pretty happy with everything I got, with one exception, and that's the forward assist button, Paul. It's the press fit style. There's no roll pin holding the button on, so it relies on a press fit only. I've learned and come to prefer the pin style, and they have a hole drilled through the button, through the Paul shaft, and then it gets roll pinned also. So the one that's got suspenders, belt, and Velcro is the roll pin style. So I'm going to be using something else besides this. And the last time I ordered from Aero Precision, they were still pinning theirs. So there's a local shop here that specializes in a lot of Aero Precision stuff, so I may run down and see if I can get the roll pin design. But other than that, overall, pretty happy with Fulton Armory, and I'm getting ready to show you something that was really nice. Okay, so I was pretty surprised and happy with the fitment of the Fulton Armory A2 rear sight and the Harrington and Richardson receiver. You can see there is very little movement. You might be able to hear it, but you can't hardly see it. Very, very little movement here. And that's all the way up and down. It's a very snug fit. So I was pretty happy about that. Now here's an example of what you don't want. This is a detachable carry handle. It's I got this from Palmetto State Armory quite a few years ago. And we'll see the difference here. We'll do kind of a close-up, and you can see how much slop is in this one. Quite a bit. Hope you're picking that up on the camera. It's hard to do one-handed. But you can see how much slop and movement we get here. Versus what I got going on here. So I was really happy about the fitment. Now by the time I get the elevation drum wheel in here and the spring detent and ball, this thing's probably not going to move hardly at all. So very happy with that. Okay, so the original A2 upgrade from the A1 was a collaboration between the United States Marine Corps and Colt. And I guess they worked on all the improvements and upgrades for like close to 3 years. And I'm not an expert on the dates and the history of all this, but I believe it was 1983-ish where the Marine Corps started to adopt the A2. And later on, they went to a detachable carry handle. I'm not sure about when all that happened, but I believe that was primarily because of the M4, M4A1. And then later on, they also adapted the detachable carry handle to the A3, A4 20-inch full-length rifle. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the drum differences and ranging differences between the A2 and what is considered the A4 detachable carry handle. Okay, so for right now, we're just talking about the elevation drum. And we're going to get into indexing. We're going to get into the Santos Improved Battle Zero, the revised Improved Battle Zero, and what was originally intended. And I'm going to set this Colt HBAR clone up as these sights were originally designed and indexed. But we're going to talk a little bit about the revised stuff also. So you can see here on the A2 drum, it's indexed for 800 meters and 300 meter. And on the detachable carry handle, they went to a 6.3. Now, the reason for the 6.3 was when they went to the flat top design rifle, they didn't have enough room and thread pitch, and they just went to 6.3 and shortened it up from 8.3. Okay, so as we start talking about the elevation drum, the original adaptation, and how you can re-index it for different zeros and different trajectories, I'm going to be focusing in on a 20-inch barrel. And there's other setups and other indexing considerations if you're using a 14.5 M4 barrel, 16-inch barrel, whether you're using a detachable carry handle, A2. We're going to focus in on the A2 20-inch barrel. Otherwise, this video will be like 4 hours long. Okay, so I know a lot of you that are, more familiar with the AR platform. You guys already know some of this, or maybe you know all of it. Maybe you know more than I do. But I try to gear my videos to where I'm giving information, a little bit of everything to everybody. Your elevation drum on the AR is 2 halves. You have the top half here and the bottom half here. These holes are for the spring and detent that go on the bottom. That's how you get your clicks. And this right here is your locking set screw. So once you get these elevation drums put together into the receiver and screwed onto your sight, and you get everything indexed properly, that's what this is for right here. And this is a 1/16 inch Allen wrench. So I'm going to leave the spring and detent out for now, and that'll make it easier to move things around and just show you what's going on as far as indexing. Okay, so just put the 2 halves together. Like I said, I'm leaving the spring and detent ball out. Slide it in here. Whoops, that thing came flying out of there pretty darned easy. And then you're going to slide this in on top and screw the two together. I'm trying to do this one-handed. So sight goes in here, and okay, so now they're mated up together. And now we'll get into the indexing part, and then we'll start talking about all the different revised and improvised ways to set a zero on this thing. Okay, so we're going to set this up for the 25 meter original design zero, and you can see that this bottom ring is what makes the sight actually go up and down, and the top ring just floats until you get that set screw in and lock them together. So the way this A2 sight was originally designed by the Marine Corps in Colt was you take your bottom ring, slide it all the way down to the bottom, and now you're going to move your upper ring around until your 8.3 lines up. So this thing's all the way bottomed, or to the nearest detent click you can get it. And that may or may not be an actual detent click if I had it installed. But let's just say that's it right there. I'm going to rotate this, put that set screw in, and lock them together. And that's the original design. Okay, so let's get into how we zero this with the original design. Okay, so on your A2, you got everything mechanically set up correctly. And the way you actually zero the rifle is you use a small aperture. If it looks like that, you're using the wrong one. If it looks like that, you're using the right one. Okay, so we have our small aperture. These aren't locked together, so if I move them, they might not move together. But anyway, you're going to come up one click. So let's just say that's one click in the up direction. Now you go set your target up at 25 meters. And then what you do is you set up your zero point of aim, point of impact. And once you've achieved that, by adjusting the front sight post, and once you're zeroed in, you put this back on the 8.3 detent, and now your rifle is zeroed. And that's all there is to it for an A2. Now I said at the beginning of the video we're primarily talking about A2s, but we're going to throw some detachable carry handle in there every once in a while. So we'll show you how that works. Okay, so on your detachable carry handle, we talked about it towards the beginning of the video, how it's 6.3 instead of 8.3. The adjustments are a little more refined, a little different. So in this case, for a 25 meter zero on a 20-inch barrel, you're going to come up 2 clicks in the up direction. This has the detent 1, 2, and that puts us at the Z mark. Most detachable carry handle drums 6.3 have a Z mark, some don't. If yours is not marked, it's 2 clicks instead of 1 click, like the standard A2. Okay, so we're going to get into, in general terms, what you do to re-index your drum here, and how that affects where you zero at and your battle zero, and where you zero the rifle based on your drum elevation and your battle zero. Sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're not when you're using these revised improved or the Santos improved, whatever you're going to do to re-index this to mean different things. But I thought before we get into that, I'll show you the difference in the number of clicks between the A2 fixed carry and an A4 detachable. So we're going to go into the up position to the 400 meter range. Okay, so right now we're at 8.3. So here's 1, 2, 3. So 3 clicks up, we land on 4 on the fixed carry handle. Now, on your detachable, we're going to go, let me get my fat fingers out of the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to get to the same elevation range. So I think at some point during the video I was talking about how these adjustments on the thread pitch are different between the two. So if you're building an AR platform and you get your drums and your sights mixed up, like if you put this on an A2, I can't say exactly what's going to happen, but it's not going to be right, or vice versa. All right, so let's get into the different type, or the most common types of zeros and offsets. Okay, something I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video. The originally adopted design, 8.3, using a 25 meter zeroing procedure, was designed for M855, the green tip ammunition, 62 grain, and that's 3,060 feet per second. So that's what this whole thing was designed around, was that specific ammunition for a 20-inch barrel. All right, well, let's get into some of the things you can change on the indexing on the elevation drum, and what the Marine Corps did. Okay, so at some point the Marine Corps adopted the 36-yard zero, and I'm not sure when all that happened, but what they did was they physically turned this sight up 2 clicks. And like we were saying earlier in the video, this actually adjusts your up and down sight, and this is just an index ring that floats until you lock them together. So what they did was they moved this up 2 clicks, then they loosened the set screw and re-indexed to 8.3 so that it was back on the alignment mark. So they would physically move it up 1, 2 clicks like that, and then they took this and lined it back up with the alignment mark. Okay, so once we have this re-indexed, they would go back to 8.3. Now, because you index this up 2 clicks, that gives you 2 clicks in the opposite direction. So what they did was they would go 2 clicks in the downward position, and I can't do it on this because I zeroed it for 8.3 25 meter, but That would allow you to go 2 clicks in the downward position off of your 8.3, and that would be your 36-yard zero. And so you put this back on 8.3, and then for your battle zero, after you've zeroed at 36 yards, you'd get a battle zero at 55,200 once you set it back to 8.3. So besides the Marine Corps 36 yard and everything they do, you know, being in yards, probably the next two most popular are the Santos Improved Battle Zero, SIBZ, with an approximate 50 yard and 200 meter. And then your range elevation adjustments actually line up at 3, 4, 5, and 600 meters. So quite a few people use this setup here. And like I said, I'm not going to go into all the details of exactly, you know, how you re-index your drum. But that's the basic drift of the Santos. And then I think probably the one that I think is the most versatile is this revised Improved Battle Zero. And what that does is it gives you a 50 yard and 200 meter, okay, 50 yard and 200 meter. It's not yards, meter. But it also gives you a 100 yard zero, depending on where you're at on the elevation drum. And like I said, I'm not going to get into all the in and outs on how you actually index this and accomplish that. You're not going to find a whole lot of this on YouTube, any real detailed information. If you want to know exactly how to do this and how to set up your drum, just Google it, and there's a lot of write-ups that people have done over the years, and they get very, very detailed. I mean, they get down to the subatomic level on this stuff. And when you start re-indexing the type of ammunition you use, the distance, barrel length, your sight radiuses, I mean, it gets pretty scientific in a hurry. Okay, well, we are there. This thing's fully assembled, properly indexed. You can see that the sight's bottomed out. Index mark lines up at 300. One click up for an A2 fixed carry handle. 25 meters. If I need to shoot anything closer, we'll flip to the 02. Anyway, I hope I didn't get anybody confused. If nothing else, at least you know that, you know, you can index this elevation drum for different zeros and different trajectories. Pete in North Las Vegas, over and out.